I threw the bear across the room. It landed face down on the wooden floor. I decided then that I wasn't going to take it into the bed with me. I would just leave it there on the floor. I went to bed, and after what felt like hours of lying still with one eye fixed on the bear, I managed to fall asleep. I'm not sure how long I slept. It may have been a couple of hours or just a few minutes, but I was awakened by a strange wooden sound. I say wooden because it sounded like snapping twigs and creaking branches. When I opened my eyes, they were already pointed in the direction where the bear laid, still on the floor. But now it was changing. Its furry limbs twisted and lengthened in a jerking and unnatural way. That was the cracking noise I was hearing. Its arms and legs grew and jerked, lengthening and thinning like spider legs. Finally, it lifted its head from the floor. It was swollen to several times its original size, and distended across from fluffy ear to fluffy ear was a row of sharp teeth that dripped with drool. It opened its jaw and released a roar that shook the room. I felt its hot breath hit me in the face, and I bolted from the bed. I ran into the hall and headed for the stairs. Behind me I could hear the sounds of crackling wood as the thing lifted itself to its feet. I turned to look, and it scrambled behind me, walking on spindly legs and using its spider-like arms to dig its claws into the opposite walls of the hallway to propel itself forward. The house rattled with its growls. As I approached the stairs, I slipped on the top step and tumbled to the bottom floor. I twisted my ankle in the process and couldn't get back to my feet. I looked up the stairs, and staggering its way down was this monstrosity. No longer a teddy bear, but a scarecrow-like thing with the skin of a teddy bear stretched across its wooden skeleton. It opened its mouth again and spoke. "It's lovely out in the woods today, but safer to stay at home. For every bear that ever there was will gather there, for certain, because today's the day the teddy bears have their picnic." I screamed and closed my eyes, sliding myself back across the floor like a slug. I began reciting a nursery rhyme that sometimes brought me comfort when I was having an episode. I tried to remind myself that this wasn't real. "As I was going up the stairs, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish he'd go away. As I was going up the stairs, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish he'd go away." I whispered this to myself over and over. When I opened my eyes, I was in my mother's arms. She was shaking me and calling my name. I looked past her worried face and up toward the stairs. My father stood at the top, with the bear in his hands. "What's wrong with him now?" he said. "I'm not sure," she said. "I think he had another night terror." "Figures," my father said in that familiar, dismissive tone. "Gonna chain you to the bed, boy, if you don't cut this shit out." He threw the bear at me again and disappeared into the hallway. My mother carried me back up to bed. For the next few nights, this happened again and again. The bear would transform into the monster, chasing me, and my mother would find me in various places of the house, hiding in closets or in cabinets, shaking and reciting nursery rhymes. After the 6th night, my mother begged my father to let her get rid of the bear. She offered to burn it, bury it, whatever it took. My father just smugly smiled and said, "You'd burn a gift a father gave his son? How ungrateful!" Somehow, my father was still more terrifying than anything my broken mind could invent. Even so, the constant disturbances during the night were wearing on him, too, so he made good on his promise to restrain me to my bed. The 7th night he tied me down with ropes and sat the bear square on my chest. "Sleep tight," he said as he closed my bedroom door. It wasn't long before I felt vibrations on my chest as a low growl began to rise from the bear. Slowly, its mouth began to stretch across its face in a toothy, distended fashion. Immediately, I closed my eyes and began to recite the rhyme. Over my own voice, though, I could hear that crackling sound. It was growing again, transforming. I abandoned the rhyme and instead began to scream. I called for my mother. I struggled and strained against the ropes until they began to cut into my wrists, and I felt blood trickle down my arm. I could hear voices in the hall. My mother first. "Let me go to him, please. He's having a nightmare." Then my father. "Stop babying him. He's driving us all crazy as he is. You want to stop to it? I'll make it stop." What happened next is a blurry mix of hallucination and reality. To this day, I'm not quite sure what actually transpired. I remember my father bursting into my bedroom. I remember the door flinging open and crashing against the wall behind. I remember the crackling noise the bear made as it grew. I remember the bear's voice. "Today's the day the teddy bears have their picnic." There was a scream, but not my own this time. My eyes were clenched tightly shut, and I just kept repeating, "As I was going up the stairs, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish he'd go away." There were growls and roars, crashes, the sound of ripping flesh and screaming. Then silence. Finally, my mother came in. She saw me tied to the bed and ran to me, frantically removing the ropes from my bloody wrists. My father was nowhere to be seen. The bear lied face down on the wooden floor, as it had the first night when I'd thrown it aside. After attending to my wounds and making sure I was all right, my mother asked me, "Where's your father?" I looked up at her and simply shook my head. That was nearly 30 years ago. The community assumed that my father must have wandered away in a drunken stupor and had some sort of accident. There was a search in the nearby woods, but nothing was ever found. I still have the teddy bear. Never since that night has it ever transformed again. It's just a bear. Just an old, worn teddy bear with dead plastic eyes and balding fur. When I first saw it, it frightened me. But I was just a child then, and now I understand that it was all a delusion brought on by my illness. However, for reasons I can't quite describe, I have a certain respect for this old thing. Sometimes the scariest things in this world are just misunderstood. Sort of like me. After all of us have a mind of our own.